A resolution declaring the City of Pueblo's intent to terminate its franchise agreement with Black Hills Energy at the midpoint of the franchise in 2020 and to create a municipal utility if due diligence demonstrates the city can create and develop a municipal utility which will provide economic and social benefits to the citizens and businesses of Pueblo.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Is there a staff report?
Mr. President, members of the council, this resolution before you has been placed on the agenda per request by Councilman Atencio and Councilman Nicol. I will give you a short staff presentation, but I would ask Councilman Nicol and Councilman Atencio if they want to expand on my presentation later after I'm done. A little over 7 years ago, in 2010, the City Council referred the question to the voters of the city about granting a utility franchise to Black Hills Energy. The Black Hills Energy franchise was approved by the city voters on a special franchise election on August 10th of 2010. By the state law, the city is authorized to purchase or condemn the electric works and facilities of the Black Hills Energy within the city at intervals of 10 years or 15 years. The franchise is the effective date, as I said, it was the August 10th of 2010. Therefore, the 10-year interval makes it the August 11th of 2020. Based on this resolution, Councilman Atencio and Councilman Nicol is requesting the council to consider to terminate the Black Hills franchise and create a municipal utilities. So with that being said, I'll ask Councilman Atencio and Councilman Nicol if they want to expand on that.
Yeah. Gentlemen, let me just interrupt for a second just to state to all the constituents out there that in June I had requested that our utility attorney would come and give a presentation during a work session to point out clearly what was all involved in doing an off-ramp and also looking at municipalizing our electric utility within our city. So certainly tonight this resolution is in order to be submitted and to be voted on tonight because we have followed our policies and that presentation was pretty extensive. Matter of fact, I have a copy of the presentation that was given at that time in June, and I think clearly it enabled council to reach some kind of a decision tonight. That certainly helped that. So with that, Councilman, you wonder which one you want to start?
Go ahead, Chris.
Thank you. Well, when I was elected in 2011, and this was the issue I ran on City Council, this was the primary issue of that day, was our different views on our electric utility and how it was impacting our economy and our citizens. Those issues have only gotten worse since that time. And we've heard more and more stories from our citizens and from our businesses of how the impacts of having extremely high utility rates have affected them. And so for me, this is the first chance we've had to really affect any change. The contract that we're in is pretty ironclad with our franchise agreement and the regulation of the PUC and the state laws that really are in favor of the utilities for the most part. And so I think we have to explore this option. We have to look at all possibilities, that we shouldn't leave any stone unturned, and we should look at everything that's available to our citizens, and we should invest in this process and spend some money to hire the right experts that'll help us get the answers that we need, because this is a very complicated issue. It's a lengthy issue. It's not something that would necessarily be solved quickly, but it's the right decision. The next opportunity is it's like we're going down the freeway. There's an exit ramp coming up. If we miss this exit, the next opportunity is like 15 years down the road. So we've got to be very careful with this opportunity that we're looking at all the appropriate options. And so I think this is the right time to do this. This basically would allow us to explore those opportunities. Larry?
I agree totally, Chris, and hopefully my colleagues will agree with us too. In 2010, when we got this franchise from Black Hills, I was president of City Council again. So I was fortunate, and I don't know that I was honored, but I got to sign the agreement. My signature is on there. Don't hold it against me. That was then. This is now. Since then, we thought Black Hills was going to be a good corporate citizen to Pueblo. They have not been. They have gouged us. They have taken advantage of us. They have gone over and above being a corporate robber of the citizens of Pueblo, as far as I'm concerned. I regret signing that franchise agreement then, but I'm not going to be afraid to sign on to this resolution tonight. I think it's needed. Chris, you were absolutely right. We have to explore all possibilities, not only municipalization, because you got to remember municipalization is going to cost the citizens of this city a lot of money, and the estimates are hundreds of millions. So when we go about the business of doing this, we've got to be careful. There are other avenues that we can take to relieve the citizens of this burden that they're under with Black Hills. I intend to explore those in the future. But this is, like you said, the first step. And this is a way to let Black Hills and our constituents know that we are committed to what's best for our constituency, and that we're not going to be manhandled by a corporation that is from out of state and doesn't really care about the citizens of Pueblo. So I urge my colleagues to vote on to this, and we'll move on and see what happens in the future. Let's explore all possibilities.
So, Sam, does that conclude the staff report?
It does, sir.
All right. Council, we have a couple citizens that have signed up tonight to speak, and I would like to invite each one of them to come up separately, and you'll have 5 minutes to give testimony. And the first one is Vance Crocker. Vance, welcome. And again, I would remind everybody here tonight that not everybody that speaks you're necessarily going to agree with, but I would appreciate you showing respect and civility. You want to introduce yourself?
Yes, good evening, council members. My name is Vance Crocker, and as you're probably aware, that I'm the new vice president for Colorado Electric here for Black Hills Energy, and I'm proud to be here in Pueblo. My wife is going to be joining me, and we are going to make Pueblo, Colorado our new home, and it's going to be our community. I am new, as I mentioned. I've been spending the last 2 weeks spending a lot of time with the employees, getting to know the business, learning kind of the issues that they have, getting to develop relationships with the employees. And now I'm going to be starting to outreach to the community, to the various stakeholders in the community at all levels, and including you all. I understand that you are going to vote tonight, as I've heard, to take the off ramp. But I would respectfully ask that you not vote for the resolution, or at least delay the vote, and I'll tell you why. I'm just asking for a fresh start with me and with Black Hills Energy. I am the company, and I welcome the opportunity to sit down and listen and learn from each of you. I thought it was extremely enlightening to hear some of the passion from some of the community members that have got up and spoke, and I would just like that opportunity to be able to spend time with each of you and hear the issues and the concerns firsthand, and really that's my goal. We remain committed. I remain committed to continuing to serve our neighbors, our fellow citizens here in Pueblo and the rest of southern Colorado that that we serve, and I would like to see. I heard, sir, you talk about exploring all different options, and I would like to look to see what sort of option or partnership could there be with Black Hills Energy. I think we have a lot to offer this community. I'm a firm believer in that partnership, and I would ask your indulgence, and I would like to be afforded that opportunity to see what Black Hills Energy could do for you all in the community and the citizens, the great citizens of the community. So again, I do look forward to meeting with each of you, and I do consider this an opportunity. I appreciate the opportunity to have a few minutes in front of each of you.
That concludes your testimony?
Yes, sir. That
All right, Vance, thank you very much. No. All right, next I'd like to invite up Dave Gicenzo. Welcome back, Dave. You got 5 minutes.
So I'm in favor of the resolution. I've been advocating for an action such as this since 2014, and been thinking about such a thing since 2011. I think it was when the nuclear power plant was proposed for an energy center out east of town. And thinking that Pueblo could become an energy center of excellence with all kinds of energy, including renewable energy. So I'm in favor of it. Now, the franchise termination doesn't necessarily have to be a closing of all business with Black Hills. It could be that this franchise terminates and we get a new franchise that has more frequent off-ramps, like every 2 years, renewable on a yearly basis, or something like that, where we can have more time to get our ducks in a row as to how we want to take over the distribution network and where we're going to buy our energy from, perhaps from the airport Black Hills station. I'm not sure. Similarly, the responsibility for billing and service in the distribution network doesn't necessarily have to come over from Black Hills all at once. It could come in sections, like, for example, Bessemer might have a high incidence of terminations of bills, terminations of service, and that might be the one the city wants to take over first because that may be one that the city can help first. Or it might be the east side where we have terminations. So the franchise could be written such that sections of the city come over, rewritten in 2020, such that sections of the city can disassociate from Black Hills independently of other sections of the city. One of the things we've talked about here in the past, and I think 6 of you voted for, was 100% renewable energy, and I was against that pledge, I guess it is. But this renegotiation of the franchise this termination of the franchise could enable that pledge to be maybe met 50 or 60% of the way. Listening to the XL discussion at the work session a week or 3 weeks ago, whenever it was, it's clear that they aren't planning to go 100% renewable. They're keeping 46% of their power generated by fossil fuels. We're probably going to be in the same boat. So, but they seem like they're going to be further along than we are by design. So the renegotiation of the franchise can probably help us in that regard. One other thing is, it would be great if we could allow in the regional building department the ability for individual customers who can generate their own electricity, who will have battery systems to run into the night, to not be penalized for disconnecting from the grid, so that we can get closer to 100% renewable. But in summary, I guess I would say termination of this particular franchise at the off-ramp will enable these kinds of discussions to begin, and maybe they'll involve Black Hills. I hope so. I think Vance is formerly an operating engineer. he can do some stuff for us. He'll understand the problems of how to separate some of our businesses from the general network, and I think he could be a good partner during this transition period. So I just urge you to vote yes if you can. Thanks.
All right, Dave, thank you. Council, that concludes the citizen input, and I would ask for a motion to approve. Second? All right, the motion is made and second. And Council, I would ask before we start discussion that I want you to consider as president that we amend this resolution, and the amended part would to include a off-ramp commission that would be formed by the city. That would include 2 city council members, a representative from the county, a representative from Pueblo West, a representative from residential customers, a representative from commercial, and a representative from manufacturing, and that we have a city attorney assigned to this commission, and that attorney's job will be working with any professional consultants, whether they be legal or utility consultants, to work with this commission on behalf of the citizens and the city council. So through our discussions, I would ask that you would consider amending this by making a motion and seconding it and add it to when we do the final. So just to get clear, Councilor, when would be the appropriate time to do that?
Well, after a motion to approve has been made and seconded, then a motion to amend would be appropriate at that time.
Okay, so I would ask if somebody's willing to consider.
I wanted to make sure that there's a citizen representative that we appoint on that as well, and you went through those, and I didn't hear.
Well, there was a residential representative, that would be a citizen, a commercial representative, that would be a citizen, and a manufacturing representative, that would be a citizen. It would be 3 citizens.
So I would like there to be somebody from Pueblo Energy Future on there. So if one of those people could be one of those potentially.
You know, again, council will decide how to make up. I'm just proposing that, but okay. I guess today I'm asking for to amend it to include an off-ramp commission.
Okay, I will second that.
No, you make the motion.
Oh, I'm sorry. I will make the motion as stated.
Okay, is there a second? Second. All right, any discussion?
I don't know if it makes any difference, but the resolution does say that to create a municipal utility and due diligence demonstrates the city cannot create a develop a municipal utility. Will we be able to look at other alternatives like we talked about in terms of this resolution, or are we just looking at a municipal utility and everything else is off the table? And
Councilman, let me just, that can be with the discussion on the total resolution. Right now, we're just asking if it passes to have a commission, whether we look at other types of plans. This is strictly about having a commission that will work with council.
Okay.
Councilman Aguilera.
Well, I think the way that I look at it is enough. I mean, we've postponed this deal every 2 weeks. We've had meeting after meeting.
Councilman Aguilera, that we're not onto that topic. We're just asking to amend it to include a commission. That's not the whole resolution. So if you could make a comment about that if you want to.
Yeah, I'm very much in favor of it. I think that we've spent enough time and we need to move on. Okay. And this community, I have some apartments. My tenants can't afford the payments on their energy because their energy is more than the rent.
Okay. Councilman Aguilera, okay. I'm sorry.
Right.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but we'll have a chance to discuss that one. So is there any more comments on the forming a off-ramp commission, which council will decide the makeup of that? Okay. Proceed with the action. Yes is for the amended. It's unanimous. All right. Okay, just for clarification, that was not on the resolution. That was just the commission part. So, all right. I know Councilman Schilling, you wanted to add something. Now we're discussing the resolution, which is to vote for the off-ramp.
Just real quickly, there's a lot of emotion involved in this, and there's no place for emotion in a business decision. This is a business decision, and emotion plays no part. So our job is to make it business and keep all the emotion out of it. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Councilman Atencio.
Yeah, could we speak to the issue of researching other alternatives as to not only just municipalization? Well, or will we be able to talk about those issues with the commission?
Let me ask, Councilor, can you respond to that, please?
The issue of other alternatives should be studied by the commission.
By the commission. Okay, I'm fine with it.
And you can consult with your utility lawyer about that. Some utility lawyers have said that the city's only option is municipalization. But I think that bears further discussion and further research. And so I would defer those issues to the commission. They're proper for the commission to weigh into.
Okay, I'm good with that.
Any other discussion?
Well, what I wanted to say,
Councilman Aguilera, go ahead. All you want.
that I don't know of one influential person in this community that hasn't been involved in trying to get Black Hills to slow down and to treat the city differently than they are. And they never wanted to listen to anybody other than themselves and their attorneys. And so when Chris Burke left, I think there was a lot of people that were kind of maybe happy, but because Chris wasn't a bad guy, but you couldn't be nice to him because of the perception of the way people saw of you being on his side. And so I think this is the right time and the right place to move on this, and so I'm very much in favor of it.
Thank you, Councilman Aguilera. Any other comments? Councilman Nickel.
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, this one key issue, I think, sets Pueblo aside from the rest of the state. When you look at the growth that's happened in the northern part of Colorado, it's a tremendous amount of growth. And you look at what's going on here, and we've had some growth. We're doing better than we were when I first got on city council. But it's nowhere near what we're seeing in the rest of the state. Now, is that our only reason? Is that the only thing going on in Pueblo that may be preventing us from growing or improving our economy? No, I don't believe that. But it's a major factor. And I know that because I went and I've spoken to some of our biggest employers. I work in cybersecurity, and I was asked to make a presentation on cyber to the Southern Colorado Manufacturers Group. This is everybody that's a big manufacturer in the area, all the big companies. And for the first half hour of that meeting, that's what they wanted to talk about, was how these rates, the demand fees, are just affecting them, and it's making the business environment untenable. It's the same for medium-sized businesses. It's the same for the small business people who these fees are just killing them. And so, and I've heard from a lot of them. In addition, we have all the issues with our local citizens that are having their power shut off, and people having to choose between whether they're going to buy prescriptions or their groceries or pay their electric bill. And it's just, we've got to solve this problem. And I think this is our best and only opportunity that I've seen since we've been on here. So I intend to support this. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Councilwoman.
Yeah, I definitely support this resolution. I just do want to make a point in saying that with or without a franchise agreement, this does not just automatically get rid of Black Hills. The franchise, there's lots of cities that do not have a franchise agreement. The Public Utilities Commission certifies and appoints which company will serve which area. I do think this is a great way to kind of hold Black Hills Energy, hold their feet to the fire, just to let them know that we're just not going to take this crap anymore. Also, just another point to make, that if we had a municipal utility, people are still going to get their electricity shut off. I mean, the Pueblo Board of Waterworks does it every day with no mercy. So if the city owns the utility, it's still not free. Just want to make that point. But I definitely support this. And again, this does not get rid of Black Hills, but it'll possibly hold their feet to the fire and make them more open for negotiation.
Any other discussion? Councilman Atencio.
Yeah, I'm going to support this resolution also, but I'd like to say to Mr. Crocker that I was assigned to be the liaison between Black Hills and City Council and the Pueblo's Energy Future Group. So I kind of walked the line between the three entities and have been for the last 2 years. So whenever you want to meet, I'm there for you. And maybe we can make some progress on it. It isn't set in stone that we're going to take the off-ramp. It isn't set in stone that we're going to become a municipal utility, but this certainly gives us room to cuss and discuss the issue with those people who are interested in it, and then we'll come to a decision before the off-ramp does occur in 2020, and that's all we're asking for as far as the constituency is concerned. And all things will work out, I'm positive. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilor, just give us just a little, again, a brief explanation of what we're voting on tonight, what that absolutely means.
Well, City Council is taking the first step toward municipalization or some other option. And what it has done by this resolution is say, we are going to study this matter further. We're going to consult with financial experts, utility experts, legal experts. And by the amendment, all of this information will go through the Off-Ramp Commission, who will study all the issues and come back to City Council with a recommendation. So what we're saying is we're taking the first step toward the off-ramp. The turn signal is on, and so we may take the off-ramp, but we can also go back in the through lane and stay with Black Hills. But the signal, the traffic, the turn signal is on. And so everyone has noticed that we are going to study taking the off-ramp from Black Hills.
So with this action tonight, what does that allow to happen in terms of other third parties, other energy providers?
I think that's a matter of further study, further legal opinions. As I read the statute seems to say that our only option is municipalization. But I'm not a utility expert. So I want the opinion of other utility experts as to whether we have an option to go with another provider. There are a lot of agreements which can be reached. For example, the city could say, we're going to municipalize. Then the issue becomes, okay, do you just municipalize the distribution system? What about transmission lines? What about generating stations? What about other communities? These are all issues that this off-ramp commission has to look at. Utilities are always interested in purchase power agreements. So one option, obviously, is for the city to buy the generating station and then have purchase power agreements with other utilities who are interested in green energy, natural gas energy, because of the state requirement that we have 20% of all generation be done by renewable sources. What is interesting to me is what Excel plans to do. They plan to close Comanche 1 and Comanche 2. Those are operating plants. They're doing it not because they don't work. They're doing it because they want to buy more energy from renewable sources. Are those plants available? Is Public Service Company willing to enter into an agreement? I think there are a lot of options that this commission would look at. But this is the first step, basically saying we are going to study this, and as part of the 2018 budget, we will appropriate funds to take a real hard look at this off-ramp.
Thank you, Councilor. So, Council, let me just add that if this resolution is amended, adding this off-ramp commission is approved by the majority of council tonight, that first of all, there has been discussion to authorize the city manager to put into the budget for 2018 $250,000 to be used to initiate this process. I mean, it sounds like a lot of money, but quite frankly, it's a drop in the bucket for what would be involved. You know that Boulder already has spent $16 million, and they still have Excel as their provider. So, I mean, this is a haul that we're in for the long run, but I would suggest that if this passes as amended, that we quickly put together that off-ramp commission, and that we get legal advice hired as quickly as possible to work with that commission. And remember, it would have 2 council members on there. So, any further discussion? Councilman Nickel.
And I think it'd be good if the president of city council reached out to the chairman of the county commissioners. In some side discussions I've had with Garrison Ortiz, the concept of them putting forward some money has come up, and there seems to be support for that. They haven't voted on it, just like we haven't voted on it yet in their budget, but now's the time to set those dollars aside, and if they're willing to go in and help us fund the study, I think it's a good thing, and I think that discussion needs to happen, and it really should come from our body to their body through the president and the chairman. So, and then also we should be including Pueblo West. Thank you, Rab. I said that earlier, but I just left that part out. So,
right, that was part of the initial proposal,
right,
was to include Pueblo County and Pueblo West primarily because those elected bodies both represent constituents that are within the Black Hills service area. So I think they need to be a part of that. And then again, I think it's important that we have representation from the 3 different sectors that receive utility service from the provider, and to keep it at a 7, and then have legal advice constantly for that body. And
thank you.
Councilwoman Winter, you're welcome.
Oh, I don't know if this is a possibility or not, but Xcel Energy is able to keep their rates down for the customer because of Evraz. So, and of course, Evraz is in the city of Pueblo. Is there any way we can approach the PUC to somehow reestablish that certification to another utility company? I mean, that is Pueblo's company.
Evraz is actually in the county. They're not in the city.
But aren't they?
They're not within the city limits. They're considered unincorporated part of the county.
But say Black Hills Energy could serve them.
I don't know how easy it is to change that certification. As
I'd
you
like
know,
to
those
check
are
into
pretty
that.
much set in stone by the PUC. I mean, we can check into it, but I don't think that they'd easily be removed from one provider to another. So I can't see Evraz actually agree with that. You know, they're the ones who have to initiate that rather than us.
Excuse me, Sam. Councilwoman, I do believe that this council and future councils, as long as we have that off-ramp commission operating, will be overseeing that commission, and certainly we'll have opportunity to give input into what that body does. And so anything that you're talking about certainly has possibilities.
Okay. And then also, I know that it wasn't that long ago that the city did spend, I think it was about $800,000 on a study for a municipal utility. So I would definitely advise that we look at that, since it's not. Attorneys love billable hours. So when they get a hold of a city, it's an endless flow of money for billable hours. So as Steve mentioned, Boulder's already spent $16 million, and they're right back to square one. So anyway, that's all.
Councilman Schilling.
I just clarify, Pueblo West is not under Black Hills, is it? Oh, part of it is? Part of it. Oh, okay. All right, thank you.
Councilman Aguilera.
Everez is Excel's #1 customer, and so I'm sure that they're going to have to fit in this way, some way, because we don't want to lose all those jobs from Everez. So,
All right. Any other discussion?
call for the motion.
We're ready. All right, Council, proceed with the action. A yes vote is approving the resolution with amendment. It's unanimous. Thank you all. I hope several years from now you're still clapping. All right,
Mr.
Council.
President,
Yes.
if I can suggest for 5 minutes recess.
All right. 5-minute recess.